Barbadians brace as retailers predict a bump up in prices if the U.S. tariffs stick. Prime Minister Mottley meets with the British Prime Minister. Murder in Holetown. And in sports, the Pride need 161 more runs to defeat the Volcanoes in the Windies 4-day championships.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
Good evening to you. I'm Gigi Hines with the details to the news. In our top story at 7, local retailers are predicting that Barbadians may be paying more for imported food and goods in a matter of weeks if the Donald Trump administration does not reverse its decision to impose a baseline 10% tariff on Barbados. And many of them believe that the tariff is generally a bad move for local businesses and also those in the United States of America. Our Anesta Henry took to the city to feel the pulse of business owners about the developing situation.
Small and medium-sized businesses which source the majority of their goods, especially food, fruits and vegetables from the United States, will be paying more for their orders, an expense which will likely be passed on to consumers. Managing Director of Abed's and the Chairman of the Bridgetown Revitalization Committee, Eddie Abed, says this imported inflation has the potential to hurt the pockets of Barbadians.
And there are many of us in the Caribbean, in the private sector and government organizations who are trying to negotiate with the Trump administration to say this is not only going to hurt Caribbean people, but this is going to hurt American businesses that export to the Caribbean. You need to look at it. You need to present some alternatives. Failing which, within another, I would say, 4 weeks to 6 weeks, you're going to start to see increases.
Mr. Abed is also issuing the reminder that Barbados and its regional neighbors stand to feel the impact of the United States imposed levy on Chinese ships.
To find shipping companies that own Chinese vessels that touch U.S. ports, $1 million, US $1 million at a time, that's going to increase freight to the Caribbean somewhere around maybe about $2,500 to $3,000 US per 40-foot container. Somebody has to pay for this. So no importer is going to be able to absorb it.
Managing Director Woolworth Martin Bryan says the 10% tariff could have a knock-on effect on the local market.
I don't think Azerbaijan would know, but let's say a pair of jeans carry a 60% duty on jeans and then VAT. T-shirts carry over 100% on T-shirts. So we have very high duties here as well. It's referred to as tariffs over there, but it's duties here. So, the knock-on effect is such that we will certainly, our cost of goods, cost of landing goods here will be increasing, obviously, because there's going to be an increase in the first cost out of the States.
Mr. Bryan adds local businesses may have to source their goods from different markets.
Say something coming out of, say, Cambodia or Vietnam, which a lot of clothing is made now, that's attracting something like 50% duty. So if you can now bypass coming into the U.S. and coming directly to another country and then buying from them, that may be the option.
Barbados is among scores of nations on which the United States has imposed new trade tariffs. Anesta Henry, CBC News.
Now, the tariff crisis facing the region is one of its most challenging, with the region heavily reliant on imports. Chair of CARICOM, Prime Minister Mia Mottley, says it forms part of the region's legacy of its colonial dependence. She says heads of state and heads of government have been working to diversify away from that dependence.
We must re-engage urgently, directly, and at the highest possible level with our friends in the United States of America. There is an obvious truth which has to be confronted by both sides. That truth is that these small and micro-states of the Caribbean do not in any way or in any sector enjoy a greater degree of financial benefit in the balance of trade than does the United States. In fact, it is because of our small size, our great vulnerability, our limited manufacturing capacity, our inability to distort trade in any way, that successive United States administrations, including and most recently the Reagan administration in the early 1980s, went to great lengths to assist us in promoting our abilities to sell in the United States under the Caribbean Basin Initiative. We will see how these tariffs will impact on that.
Prime Minister Mottley stresses the Caribbean economies are not so large and have always been at the whims of global prices. She says CARICOM leaders can lower tariffs to zero, but it will not make a difference because the region's economies are small and vulnerable.
If Europe and China and the US and Canada and Mexico are all putting tariffs on each other, that is going to disrupt supply chains. That is going to raise the cost of producing everything from the food you eat to the clothes on your back, to the phone in your pocket, to the car you drive down the road, to the spare parts that you need for critical infrastructure. That means higher prices for all of us to pay. And sadly, yes, this will impact all of you, regardless of what any of our Caribbean governments will do.
In other news, Barbados Prime Minister Mottley met with the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer in the UK. The Labour leader greeted Ms Mottley on the steps of number 10 Downing Street. Addressing the media inside, Prime Minister Starmer said it was a pleasure and a privilege to welcome Ms Mottley. Ms Mottley, meanwhile, stated it was important for Barbados and the UK to find common ground on issues that are necessary for the two to have a healthy relationship. The office of the British Prime Minister in a statement revealed the leaders reflected on the strength of the relationship between the UK and Barbados and the shared challenges faced by the two countries, including growth, climate change and global instability. Prime Minister Starmer also thanked Prime Minister Mottley for the action taken by Barbados against the Russian shadow fleet. Barbados and Suriname are working on boosting trade and bilateral agreements. Special Envoy to Guyana and Suriname, Althea Wiggins, says with a looming trade war affecting the entire world, CARICOM members need to band together. She says Suriname is a great place to import food, and she urges Barbadians to step outside their 166 square miles and visit the country. Ms. Wiggins says there are many opportunities that can take Barbados forward if they partner with Suriname, including the oil and energy sectors.
Under the Strategic Dialogue Platform, which is the bilateral agreement between Barbados and Suriname, we have a lot of exchanges for youth, education, science, tourism. Everybody thinks it's only agriculture, but it's a lot of collaboration with Suriname. And one of the beautiful things of doing business with Suriname is because their mother country is Holland. And there are other collaborations that you can do between the three destinations.
Acting Chief Executive Officer of Suriname Airways, Captain Stephen Gonesh, says there is room for business people to explore opportunities in Suriname and for both countries to do more together. Captain Gonesh says with 2 weekly flights into his country, officials are looking to boost capacity.
As the pandemic stopped and we got to a normal situation again, it's also normalization on the side of Suriname Airways as we start expanding our route network again. And this is where, of course, in 2023, December 2023, also Georgetown, Barbados was added to our route network. And what do we see? We see an increase in the passenger amounts, as I mentioned, but there is more because there is room for improvement. We have cargo space available to offer. There is a lot of, I would say, demand in Barbados for vegetables and agricultural products. Suriname is one of the countries that can deliver.
Coming up, we'll tell you what some former law enforcement officers are trying to do to boost local recruitment. Police are tonight conducting investigations into a stabbing incident. According to Police Communications and Public Affairs Officer Acting Inspector Ryan Brathwaite, a police officer on duty along Holetown Road, St. James, was alerted to an altercation involving 2 men at 1st Street, Holetown. One person is in police custody as the Barbados Police Service investigate a shooting incident last night in St. John as well. Police say that about 7:20 p.m., a police patrol was on duty in the area of Kendall, St. John. They encountered a group of persons who opened fire. According to a statement, the police, fearful for their lives, returned fire. A male subsequently complained of injury. He was treated at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital and discharged. A firearm was recovered at the scene. A group of former law enforcement officers are on a drive to assist local law enforcement to boost recruitment numbers. And to do this, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Caribbean Law Enforcement Foundation, David Watson, says he intends to launch a program aimed at teenagers ages 14 to 18. The former detective with the New York City Police Department says he saw the need to give back to his country and has been in discussions with officials to get a cadet program up and running come September. Mr. Watson notes there's a lack of youth being recruited for the Barbados Police Service, but he's confident that this program will encourage them to join up upon completion.
Most of these programs, once it's done right, success rate for most of these young people starting law enforcement, it's about maybe between 85 and 95%, which is a very good number. And it builds, and even if the young men don't, or women don't start that career, they have a great start in terms of just being civic-minded. And it's not only about learning law enforcement, it's community service, there's things they have to do that build that ethic of being a better police officer. And the main thing is, it is based around community policing.
Director of Training and Development with the Caribbean Safety Agency, Anthony Leacock, who will be one of the facilitators within the program, says one of the main areas of focus is navigating the rudiments of operating in an online sphere. He says social media can be a good tool once used correctly. He gives the young men and women this advice.
Be very careful of what you put on social media. Don't be racist, don't be homophobic, don't say nothing offensive on social media. The employers in the UK hire people to vet you. If you come to work for an employer, they got agencies that they hire to vet you on social media because you have to represent their brand. And if they look at your social media posts and you are out there, even though you might be an ideal candidate, they'll look at your social media profile and say, nah, she's not for us. And the same thing works for law enforcement.
Just a few days into the parish of St. Joseph playing host to Wee Gathering, organizers say excitement is abuzz about its activities. Public Relations Officer for the St. Joseph Parish Organizing Committee, LaSasha Lane, says they intend to live up to the theme Adventure. Tomorrow we'll see the parish launch its pollination drive at Naniki Jazz Festival. Ms. Lane says on Sunday the parish will give thanks during a church service at the St. Anne Anglican Church. She was a guest on CBC TV 8's Morning Barbados.
We wanted to start the month off correct, starting with our church service. That is starting at 9:30 a.m. on Sunday. The team is thankful for the harvest. Harvest not only celebrating the rain and the sunshine and stuff like that, but our produce. We want to be thankful for what we live off of. So we are encouraging people to get back to that community feel of bringing stuff to the church. So we want to encourage persons not only from our parish, but even from outside to join us at St. Anne's Anglican Church from 9:30 a.m. where we will have, we're encouraging persons to bring produce to the church. We're going to lay those items onto the altar. During the church service, we're going to have those items blessed, and we want to use this initiative to give back to the community as well, to those persons who are in need.
Meanwhile, a large group of Surinamese nationals are on island to take part in the Naniki Jazz Festival. Acting Chief Executive Officer of Suriname Airways, Captain Stephen Ganesh, says a number of groups are here on island as part of the We Gathering 2025 initiative, and he has promised those who attend to get a taste of the Dutch country of Suriname in Suriname, St. Joseph, with the band South Southwest and some Trinidadian musicians.
We came with a big group. We came with a band out of Suriname, music band, almost 15 people. We came with other partners. Our local rum factory people are here, and others. Now we have a big event tomorrow.
Sports Night is brought to you by Power Inc. Pause is power. And by Dasani. Live first, Dasani after.
Time now for sports with Anne-Marie Burke. Hey, Anne-Marie.
Hi, Tisha. Unbeaten league leading 246 Mobile City United Celtics and second place Fusion Boutique Station Hill Cavaliers have booked places in the postseason of the semi-finals of the Cooperators General Insurance BABA Premier League. They both registered important wins in their latest fixtures at the BCC Gym.
We bounced off with this blowout win for Cavs over Trident, thanks to big ones like these from captain Saheed Norville, who saw his team up by 31 points at the end of the third, 85-54. And they kept the baskets coming in the final 15. Omar Bowen gets the pass and takes it all the way. The schoolboys trying to keep up, going coast to coast if this one is their lead man, Zane Gaskin. We're heading back up court, and this time Ari Mottley squares, pulls the trigger at the arc and puts money in the bank. But Cavs were firing at all cylinders with all hands on deck, and the baskets kept racking up. The lead just got wider and wider as almost every player was contributing to the score. That was Zachary Cave. And with the seconds counting, it was just to pass the ball around. And what was a mere attempt at just having to go at the basket saw Adrian Bradford seal his game-high 27 with a three-pointer as Cavs had a runaway win over Tridents 113-74. Like the Cavs, the Celtics held command of their game with Warriors, and so behind 48-36 at the half, Warriors was playing catch-up. Carlos Greenidge with a nice jumper. Warriors heading up court again, but Celtics had their defense in full effect. The steal, the pass, Aranico Brewster makes the most of being at the arc. That's 3 in the bag. Celtics on the move again. Kazarian Adams finds Greenidge. A bit of passing around from there, and an attempt that comes off the rim. Adams with the rebound does enough to fight the defense before Doroni Hurley gets the final say, and in a big way, as they had a 74-94 lead at the end of the third. Final 15, Warriors tried to keep things tight. They looked a better organized unit. Kawal Boyce puts it up. Hurley again with one of those effective overhead passes, and Brewster again is the man. So time to shut shop as it's seconds on the clock. McKelly Downey looking to finish in style. First attempt missed. 7 seconds on the clock. He tries a second time. Again, no luck. But they said the third time is a charm. 3 seconds left and finally nails it. Celtics win over Warriors 96-71.
A high-performance golf performance center has opened its doors in Barbados to the public. It's the Ford's Golf High Performance Center, the brainchild of certified golf professional Richard Ford, located at Durance Golf Course. The facility includes a conditioning room and is aimed at taking the game to the next level. Trevor Thorpe reports.
The Ford's Golf High Performance Center is for the general public, whether a golfer or not. Golf pro Richard Ford tells the Business Report it is more than just a high-performance center. It is also a business retreat for corporate Barbados as well as visitors.
It's another place to take your company, take your teams to be able to work outside of the workplace and come and just be in a free space, in open space, to be able to utilize the equipment here. That's in terms of the business. For corporate, it's more about just bringing people together, I think. Bringing people together outside the workplace. With regards to tourism, it's about creating a really nice environment where people can come not just to play golf outside, but to be away from where they're from and still have their lesson.
The facility has already played host to 4 corporate events, but Mr. Ford tells the Business Report the service is movable and can be set up at any location.
Using this as a base to say you can bring your tourists here to experience another activity or we can bring our technology to you and do activities within the hotel for the children if they want to learn with the launch monitor. We have portable launch monitors, portable nets that we can take to hotels, put up, and they can see the same sort of information from a system on their own phones. So there's lots of different ways we can utilize the technologies we have here moving forward for tourism and then for the wider Barbados public.
The Performance Centre offers simulator lesson sessions for both amateurs and professionals daily. Trevor Thorpe for the Business Report.
Now, internet browsing has been made safer and faster. Dope security and solution architect Fidel Defort is offering this application. He says the system also increases the speed of operations.
Traditional security systems, they check your web traffic by routing it through distant data centers, and this can slow down the process. To dummy this down with an illustration, just imagine you taking a flight from Barbados to Trinidad, but first you have to fly up to Miami with a layover while they do a security check on your luggage, then board the plane and head back down to Trinidad. In contrast, Dope Security protects the internet traffic directly on this device, thus bypassing that stopover point. This increases your speed by up to 4 times while ensuring data privacy and security. And this feature is known as Fly Direct.
The solution architect says a secure web gateway is set up using large language models.
As such, all URL filtering, SSL inspection, cloud application control, and other features are now directly on the device. With this approach, it is direct, instant, and unobtrusive, whether used in the office or remotely.
Sports Night is brought to you by Power Inc. Pause is power. And by Dasani. Live first, Dasani after.
And Marie is back, so it's more sports.
Yes, and I start with football as Britonsville and UWA Blackbirds were in its role when the BFA Premier League continued last night at the Technical Centre in Windies. CBC's Anmar Goodrich Boyce reports.
Thursday night BFA Premier League football action. First of 2 matches, Britonsville with the possession versus Silver Sands. 11 minutes on the clock. Guess who? Corey Hoyt with the key. Opens the door. Keeper left flat-footed. 1-0 to Britonsville. 4 minutes later, Britonsville will double their advantage. Tavion Eastman with a thunderous strike. 2-0 the score. Silver Sands were really up against it at this stage. Britonsville never took their feet off the gas. Eastman with a second. Only 20 minutes played. Made that 4-0. Neat work from Hoyt, and the cutback finds Shaquille Boyce, who has time to take a touch and pick his spot. Silver Sands deep in the mud. Silver Sands were begging for the halftime whistle, but Britonsville continued their onslaught. Hoyt again in hot pursuit. 5-star performance. Britonsville up 5-0. Eastman got his hat trick just before the interval. This shot from distance finds the bottom corner. 6-0 now to Britonsville. And they went on to be 7-0 winners over Silver Sands. Second match on the cards. UWA Blackbirds in yellow versus Deacons. 16 minutes and counting on the clock. Cross along the carpet. And Darius Boyce is first to react. Blackbirds lead 1-0. Deacons were not phased and found the equalizer. Christian Hiera from outside the box. Magnificent. All squared at the break. It looked like this one was heading for a draw, but with 8 minutes left, UWA went on to get the go-ahead goal. Shamari Harewood, as calm as you like, 2-1 to the Blackbirds. UWA then added salt to the wound in added time. Javier Smith to seal the points. Makes no mistake. Celebrate CR7 style as UWA Blackbirds defeated Deacons 3-1. And more Goodrich Boys, CBC Sports.
The island's top junior gymnasts are set to compete tomorrow in the highly anticipated Trident Classic. The Bajan Rising Stars will go up against teams from Trinidad and the USA in tumbling, USAG Artistic and USAG Excel Gymnastics. Coach Alison Jackson says training has been going well.
So far everybody's on track. We have some kids doing new levels, so it'll be interesting for them to see how they do in the meet, being judged for the first time, like the little girls that are on the floor right now. The training sessions have been going great, and today is everybody who is competing in the USA levels 1 through 7 from my gym. And then of course we have some girls from Trinidad who are just joining us today to train.
And Coach Jackson has high expectations.
We're going to do great. It's a tough sport, I will say. You know, you can have a great session, and sometimes, you know, one fall is worth a lot of points. So I'm sure the kids are going to do their best regardless, and I'm sure we're going to have some wonderful results. This competition will also go towards choosing the team for CARICOM, so it's an important competition as well. But we're ready. We've been training hard.
The Trident Classic begins at 9 a.m. at the Windies Gym. Barbadian cyclist Amber Joseph just missed out of place in the quarterfinals of the women's sprint race at the 2025 Pan American Cycling Championships in Paraguay. Joseph came out of the qualifying round in 20th position with a time of 11.818 seconds. She then defeated Colombia's Yarly Mosquera Casero when the two went head-to-head in the next round with a time of 12.290 seconds. However, Joseph then lost to Kayla Hankins of the USA, whose winning time was 11.427 seconds.
We now double back to bring you a little more on a story brought you earlier in the news. One man is said to be in police custody tonight, assisting with investigations into a stabbing incident which occurred in Holetown, St. James earlier today. According to Police Communications and Public Affairs Officer Acting Inspector Ryan Brathwaite, a police officer on duty in the area was alerted to an altercation involving two men at First Street, Holetown.
The officer responded and saw the motionless body of a male lying on the roadway along First Street at its junction with Holetown Road. Investigations revealed that the deceased was involved in a dispute with another man when he was fatally stabbed. A medical doctor visited the scene and pronounced death. Investigations are continuing into this matter. We are appealing to anyone who was in the area at the time and witnessed this incident to please contact the Crime Stoppers hotline at 1-800-8477, Police Emergency at 211, or Holetown Police Station at 419-1700 or 419-1703.
And that's news. Thank you so much for joining us. Do have a good evening.